Welcome back to the State and Local Sports Show, episode 12. I'm here with Mark Tennis, co-founder and editor of CalHighSports.com, and it's the season to go bowling. The expanded state playoff system for California high school football is here. The matchups are set. They were set last Sunday. I know that you did multiple videos kind of projecting how the CIF commissioners were going to handle it, who they might pick. Your initial thoughts from teams in the area and where they were placed. Obviously, the one team in our coverage area who has a game, Sierra, heading up to Yuba City to play Sutter, a perennial small school power from up north.
I thought Sierra was probably pretty much around on the board where I thought they'd be. I thought maybe they'd be a little bit higher, maybe play the McClymans of Oakland or something like that. But Sutter and Sierra were pretty close together on the board, along with Bradshaw Christian and maybe a few other teams. I think the commissioners in general did a pretty good job. I think the process worked pretty easily on the top of the board and at the bottom of the board. I mean, picking the bottom couple of games and the top few games, De La Salle versus Corona Centennial, obviously, Folsom and Bellarmine and Mission Viejo and Helix, those all kind of were, I think, fairly easy. I think the biggest difficulty they had, and the biggest difficulty I had, is when you look at the middle teams from 2AA and down to the 4AA. You really can group those in any way you want. It's really hard to argue against one over the other. There were a few teams I thought were slightly overrated, but they also had some problems with the central section because, as many people know, the central section has first, third, and fifth teams were in the north, and their Division 2, 4, and 6 champions were in the south. So they had to kind of make sure they didn't play each other, and I think that had them move some teams around. But generally, we'll just see how it is. I think next year it'll be even easier to find out because we'll have this year's results to go off of.
Now, a little breakdown on Sutter, because it's a school not a lot of people around here are familiar with. They're from the northern section. They are a 10-time champion. This is their third NorCal Bowl game in the past 4 years. The first time they got in there was 2012. They faced Marin Catholic, who at the time had Jared Goff, now Cal's quarterback. Obviously, they are a machine up there. They win every year. It's a very small town. It's nestled about 10 miles west of Yuba City. But you have to wonder, and this is not a slight at Sutter at all, did Sierra catch just a bit of a break? I mean, I know school size is not that important in competitive equity, but a school about half their size, they run the wing tee, which Sierra, unless it's playing in Oakdale this year, has really been able to stop. You wonder, I mean, when you look at that game, do you think Sierra, which has earned its section title but has gotten some lucky breaks, did they get another one and facing an opponent that, while it won't be familiar specifically, it's certainly going to be a similar team to what they've seen before?
Yeah, no, I think you're probably right. I mean, Sutter this year is supposed to be a rebuilding ball club. I saw them last year when they played Campolindo. They were undefeated. Campolindo beat them. But Sutter last year had the best team in the northern section, period, I mean, regardless of school size. And that was a senior heavy team. And this year's team is supposed to be rebuilding. And they did get beat by Orland the first time and then avenged their loss in the playoffs. So I kind of think they haven't shown they were that strong. They have a common opponent with Ripon. Sierra and Sutter both lost to Ripon.
The We Lost to Ripon Bowl. I like what you called that.
This is the We Lost to Ripon Bowl. And both were early in the season. Hard to tell. But I think Sierra, given that they've been toughened up in their league a little bit more than Sutter has, this could be a good shot for Sierra to get a win and move on to a state championship.
And waiting on the other side of the bracket in Division 4A for Southern California, we have Chowchilla of the Central section, which actually, as you mentioned before we were speaking right now, isn't that far away. It's a little bit over an hour drive from Stockton, probably about an hour from Manteca, I would guess. Or otherwise, you get Fairfax from the LA City section. There's a handful of games at Sacramento State, which means the North gets a bunch of basically home games. You were just telling me before we spoke that because of that, most of the other games, barring Sonora Hanford, will be located in the south. Your thoughts on the way they did that, and I guess the difficulty of deciding these home sites, especially when you get a matchup a lot of times where, let me know if you can really base on a common opponent or strength of schedule or anything like that.
I think some of the times they're doing these home sites based on each section. I think needed to have 2 games at home for the most part. So if Folsom is going to be playing at home, that's one for the Sac Joaquin. And then, so you sort of mix and match down the board. I don't know why they would pick Sutter over Sierra to be a home game. Sutter does have some tradition, and Sutter, does have a pretty strong local following, so that could be part of it. The interesting thing will be if it's a game against Fairfax next week, because Fairfax is a city school. And I have no idea where they would play that game. I mean, Fairfax is a school that we all know from basketball.
Let's go to the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, well, they can just go to the Rose Bowl. But, it's a basketball school. They were the LA City basketball champions last year. And they're not really that well known in football. They've got a couple good players on this year's team. So if it's Fairfax versus the North, it's really going to be interesting. I have no idea where they would have that game, because Fairfax, is just a city school with a real small field. So they'll probably have to figure out somewhere, but I don't know where it would be.
One last note on football really quick. Darian Grimm, McNair football senior wide receiver, had an incredible season, tied the California state record with 34 touchdown receptions. He has made it to the final 10 of Parade Magazine's All-America list, looking for the player of the year, so he's in select company as he has a chance to get that award. Some of the guys over the years, you can read in the record a few days ago actually, who've made the team. I don't have in front of me, but there are some fantastic NFL players over the year. I believe includes Troy Aikman and guys like that, so pretty select company for Darian. Now, a question that I did not ask you about before the show, but I'm going to now just for fun. You've covered tons of high school basketball tournaments in your tenure, and one of my favorite parts is your grocery bill goes down this time of month because you get hospitality rooms wherever you go. And your many high school basketball tournaments, anywhere stand out to you as like the pinnacle of hospitality room?
The pinnacle of hospitality room. That's a good question. I know the most memorable basketball tournaments I ever went to were the ones in Las Vegas back in the early 90s. And I know I saw Luke Walton play at them. I know I saw the Collins twins. It was the Las Vegas Holiday Classic in the 90s, where Tracy McGrady and Lamar Odom, and just a who's who of players and teams and all kinds of stuff. That tournament was the pinnacle. And their hospitality was okay. The St. Mary's girls have great hospitality at their February event. They do it a great job. But to say which one is the best hospitality, that's hard to say. That's hard to say.
It is. I'd say the best I've had so far is in Red Bluff, California, at the Red Bluff Holiday Classic, which is actually a pretty big tournament considering it's a small town. Kevin Love has played there over the years. Just a fun thing I thought of there. And as for your column this week, Mark Tennis is a weekly column for The Record. This week, check it out to find out about a Stag High graduate, a volleyball coach who just won his 9th state championship with Archbishop Mitty out of San Jose. That is tied for third most ever from one coach for one sport in the state, so that's a pretty big deal. You can read that coming up soon. And Mark, as always, thanks for joining us, man. We really appreciate it, and hope you're having a good holiday season.
Thanks, Thomas. You too.